football team across the board.
That's it right there. Patriots now 1-6 on the year, falling 32-16 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 1-5 themselves. A lame duck team, a coach ready to get fired, just looking to get out of London with the win. The worst pass defense in the NFL. 32-16, the final, and you hear right there from Jerod Mayo calling the Patriots a soft football team. And Trav, he's not wrong.
He's right, George. He is right. And you know what? It's a lot of blame game going on up there with Jerod Mayo at the podium these days. I just wonder if he's pointing at himself as much as he should, because Lord knows, George, he is pointing at everyone else.
Look, it's after we saw a Texans team with the running backs average 8 yards per carry last week.
Yeah.
The Jaguars, really led by Tanks Bigsby, 118 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns, but themselves tacking on 171 yards on the ground as well, and ended the game running the ball 24 of 25 plays. Just literally said, we're going to keep running the ball down your throat. Even after getting stopped on 4th and short by running the ball, they went back to it because they knew they were better, the Patriots, that way. And that's what it's become. This is a team where the calling card was supposed to be running the ball and win with defense. That's what they did week 1 against Cincinnati.
Yes.
And we've said it the last few weeks. This team is no semblance of that one. But the worst thing possible for a head coach that says I would never be a repeat offender, this team has gotten worse and worse by the week. The one thing you can give them is they only allowed 32 points. Well, really, the defense didn't allow 32 because, of course, 7 of that came off a punt return touchdown.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, 41 was a total let up last week, 32 this week. But this offense, again, no semblance of a run game.
No.
7th different starting offensive line we've seen through 7 games. And Drake Mahye, we'll get to him, again, took steps forward, looked in command, was awesome. With no turnovers this week, which is a huge step for the rookie. But all in all, Trav,
Yep.
this team with Drake Mahye, who gives a huge boost to the offense, is nowhere closer to winning games and being competitive.
Listen, I was wrong in the outcome of the game. I thought the Patriots would win this. But I think I was right in game script. If you can remember, when we were breaking this game down all week long, I said if Tank Bigsby has a big game, that's advantage Patriots in the sense of you have to limit the big plays from Trevor Lawrence in the passing game. You remember that breakdown, George? And I said this Bigsby guy could go off and the Patriots could still win the game. In theory, I should have been right because I thought they did a pretty good job in terms of the big play, negating the big play. We know Bigsby was a monster, 26 carries, a $118, 2 touchdowns. But in the end, that punt return was the big play. It didn't necessarily come from Trevor Lawrence like I thought. I was talking more about in the passing game, limit the big passing plays, to Brian Thomas Jr. and otherwise. But that punt return, I think, was a backbreaker and was a big play that I didn't see coming. I keep hearkening back to this, and I'm wrong every week. I keep assuming the defense is going to show up. I keep assuming the special teams is going to be solid. I keep assuming penalties won't kill this team, and it's just the offense that needs to step up. I'm not going to make that mistake anymore moving forward, George. I think by doing that, I'm giving Jerod Mayo and his coaching staff too much damn credit. The reality is they can't get anything right, George. Offensively, defensively, special teams. Now he's calling teams soft. We're going to talk about other players lashing out in social media, so on and so forth. So this is a mess, George. I will not make the mistake of picking the Patriots again this season. That's it. 1 win, finito, baby. And I think there's going to be changes at the top.
You said, remember last week we go back 1 week?
Yeah.
Well, let's go through the schedule, see what they win, what they lose. This is a Jaguars team that came in and said, with our running backs alone, we're going to run the ball 35 times and only have Trevor Lawrence drop back and pass it 20.
Right.
By the way, Trevor Lawrence, with him and Brian Thomas Jr., who are having big explosive plays against this bad secondary, which we've seen time and time again.
That's right.
3 different wide receivers with an explosive reception. Brian Thomas Jr. was great in the flashes, but after that one big catch, he will settle down. But again, that is a Jaguars offense that went away from passing the ball. And Trevor Lawrence, on 20 dropbacks, still had 193 passing yards. He was getting whatever he wanted in yards per attempt. Tanks Bigsby was getting whatever he wanted on the ground. Overall, this Jaguars run game.
Yep.
Jaguars were dominating at the line of scrimmage. Tanks Bigsby, his first contact was coming beyond the line of scrimmage, breaking tackles. It was bad run fits. It was bad tackling. It was bad stops once again. It's been the same thing from this defense, not helping out at all.
Yeah.
And then again, I bring up how bad that rushing attack was. 1.6 yards per rush from the running backs today.
Yeah.
20 yards on 12 carries. Ramondre Stevenson traveled with the team. He practiced with the Patriots, but I didn't see him till after midway through the third quarter. So his foot must not be right.
Yep.
And it was a JaMychal Hasty show. But as we go through, and we're going to go good through bad on this one, we saw the glimpses, and what was great was the opening drive, of course, of what the Patriots put together.
Yep.
And that's what looked great. But beyond that, there was the first two drives. We saw a lot of success, over 130 yards of offense. Their next three drives before the half, 3 straight 3-and-outs, 19 total yards in 3 drives and 0 points. It went from scoring 10 points their first 2 drives to 0 the rest of the half and only finishing with 16 points in the game.
Yeah.
And you bring up that big punt return touchdown. Again, this is a team that's bad.
Yeah.
And they cannot afford to make mistakes like that, where you let up a 96-yard punt return touchdown. Now, normally someone wouldn't return it inside the 5. That's one of the dumbest things you can do. Well, guess what? You rewarded a dumb mistake by having dumb coverage yourselves, and that's what bad teams do.
Yeah.
And that is a reflection, again, from the top to the bottom. That is a poorly coached team.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Listen, and it goes back to what I was bringing up, where maybe I was giving Jerod Mayo and his staff too much credit, because generally with decent bad teams, meaning they are not bottom of the barrel, they're just having, the bounce isn't going their way, or they're really bad on one side of the ball, which I assume this team was. I just assumed offensively they'd be bad, but everything else would be buttoned up. Generally speaking, you can win, you can steal some games that you have no business winning at all, if you are solid on the defensive end, if you don't turn the ball over, if you are very good on special teams, if you don't shoot yourself in the foot with dumb penalties. But this team can't do anything right now. And it's so clear to me. It's taken me a couple weeks here. If I had told you, because I didn't see this coming, if I had told you coming into this game, Drake Mahye would have outplayed Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars still won, it just wouldn't have made sense. I mean, you almost, around here, we're programmed to think this offense is so bad, if you get anything from them, they should be able to win some of these games with good defense and so on and so forth. And it's just not the case. Nothing on this. If anything now, after the last few weeks here with Drake Mahye, the offense is the strength of the damn team, because the defense has disappeared completely, and special teams, which have been the strength all season up into this point, George, absolutely crap in this game. So you're regressing in areas where you thought it would be your strength. You thought your defense would keep you in some of these games. They're regressing every week. You thought the special teams would be the strength of the team. They're regressing every week. You came into the season with your offense being absolutely trash. They're getting better because of the quarterback. So it's a mess, George. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just it's like this team just stresses me out watching these games. They're boring as hell, and then they do, just the dumbest things that blow a game open when they're in the game. I mean, somehow it's a miracle that they're in these games. Even the Texans game, it took a while before it got out of control. Yeah. This game, they were in it. One big play here, one big play there, breaks it wide open. It's just a mess. It's very frustrating to watch.
It was a 14-10 game before the Jaguars broke open that long punt.
They're in these games.
Hey, I would say it's not boring anymore, but that's all because of Drake Mahye. But again, you bring in a rookie quarterback and you get that boost, and it could do so much to uplift, because this roster is so bad and so decimated.
Yes.
7th different offensive line starting combination through 7 effing games. Think about that. Then early on into the game, they lose Layden Robinson, who was benched the last 2 weeks, but you put a rookie back in and move Mike Onwenu to right tackle, because you don't have Vidarian Lowe at left tackle. Sidney So steps in, and he's going to have his miscues. He's going to have his mistakes. That is a reality of how decimated this roster is for the Patriots and how bad they are. But again, second straight week of no run game, because there's no running lanes. There's no openings. Whether Ramondre Stevenson is in the game or not, the Patriots running backs have nothing to work with. And what I've said, what I liked last week from Alex Van Pelt, was there was play action. Drake Mahye's second touchdown pass came on the play action of Hunter Henry. But you can't even do that, and you can't help your rookie quarterback if you're not running the ball, obviously, because you have to have that threat. It is just such a trickle-down effect, and every part of this team that is connected to the other is affecting it. if you can't get stops on defense. And I said it to you, this Patriots run defense worried me, right?
Yep.
I told you that because of what they let up against the Texans. What is going to win? What will win for opposing teams? Run the ball because you keep Drake Mahye on the sideline.
Sure
and that
did.
is exactly what the Jaguars
You sure did.
They could have the comments where, and that's the Patriots defense stepping up when it did, but when the Jaguars had that, it was a 17 play, and the time of possession was over 11 minutes, but it ended on a turnover on downs.
Yeah.
But what were they doing? They were running the ball, and they were going to keep doing it, and it was the best thing for them. Even Trevor Lawrence dicing up the Patriots secondary, it didn't matter. That's what teams are continually going to do, and Tanks Bigsby is going to have a big day. And guess what? Now all the time I was talking about opposing pass rushes, the Patriots are going to face Breece Hall. Then they're going to face Tony Pollard. Then they're going to face DeAndre Swift.
Yep.
Then they're going to face Kyron Williams. And these coaches that aren't that dumb, we can say what we want of Todd Downing, but it's still to be checked on him.
Yeah.
And you can say we want of Bill Callahan, but those are opponents that are just going to go, as good as we are at passing it, we're going to throw it because you guys stink. And we know your best player is your rookie quarterback.
Right.
And it's really easy to take him out of the game because we're just going to eat up the clock.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. No, you're preaching. You called this game to a T. I got to give you your flowers on that. I'll say this while you brought up some pretty bad coaches coming up on the schedule. Let's talk about our pretty bad coach.
Hold on. I want to table that. I do want to table that because I do want to bring in Sean McGuire.
Okay.
We have him. He covered the team. Then let's put a pin in that for now. We'll bring it back up. But let's bring in Sean McGuire of NESN.com. He was covering the Patriots, 32-16 the final. You can catch him on Sean McGuire on NESN.com. Sean, appreciate you hopping on Foxboro Rush. What jumped out to you, just the big takeaway you think from another loss for the Pats, who are now 0-2 with Drake Mahye taking over as starting quarterback?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway that I have after the game is that, we knew that the Patriots were a bad football team, but they might be the worst football team in the league after today. And I think, the Jags entered the game with a coach that was probably going to be fired if he loses today, with a quarterback that was, like people were really saying that Mac Jones could replace Trevor Lawrence if things continue to go sideways. I mean, that was another real aspect of the game. They're without their starting running back. And so it felt like the Patriots entered this game, kind of with the boost from last week that Drake was providing, that, the jolt in the locker room sort of thing. And I not only thought that the Patriots would cover, I thought that there was a very good chance they were going to win this game.
Me too.
And just to see them come out and, put together the first quarter with a great start, everything like that. But just to see them give up 25 unanswered and to see them, a special teams touchdown and, a penalty on a special teams mistake and, just the compounding mistakes that continue to just kill this team. I mean, they rushed for 2.5 yards a carry. They gave up 171 on the ground. How many games have they given up this season? I mean, I feel like every time we're talking here, they're giving up between 150 and 200 on the ground. And again, to a team that was without their starting running back. And give Tank Bigsby credit. I mean, he's maybe just as good as Travis Etienne, but the point still stands. And so I think just to kind of watch that, it went from like, wow, this is, such a, week 6 locks, they get beat by 20 points, but who cares, right? Like we were here last week and I kind of thought the same thing, a silver lining and a moral victory and everything like that. And for them to get beat like they did today, I think it's a completely different, a complete shift, I guess, in how you have to look at the season, going forward the next 10 weeks.
Smeezy, I completely agree. In fact, I felt the same way as you did coming into the game, that the Patriots would win this or at least have a chance to win this game. This is one of the ones you had to circle on the schedule with a Jaguars team that looked like they had quit on their head coach coming into this game, and then the Patriots go up early, and I said, here we go. Here's a win here for me on the money line, only to lose my money. But Smeezy, here's my question to you. Jerod Mayo now doing the whole we're soft and guys need to do this and that, and we'll get into more of that later, I know, GB, in terms of calling out some players. But sometimes if you're an established coach, you can do that and it can light a fire under your team. I fear that for Jerod Mayo, who is far from established anything, okay, in terms of a coach, I think he can lose the locker room with this stuff. Where do you stand on Jerod Mayo sort of calling the team out and placing a lot of blame at others is what I'm seeing. I don't see the accountability that I know he says it's on me too, and he says that in the same breath, Sean, and then he blames everyone else. I mean, how do you sort of take these comments?
Yeah, I think it's fair for you to think that. I mean, so in listening to a lot of the players, I know Drake Mahye came out, and a lot of them, who was the other one? Kyle Duggar also came out, and then Daniel Equalale, who called out teammates himself. They all kind of came out and said, we heard it from Jerod in the locker room, and we know that. He essentially they didn't push back at it. But I do think like they could be in a difficult spot mentally at this point. I mean, you're talking about a team that just lost 6 straight games. Like he says he's not worried about losing the locker room, but if they come out and they get blown out again by the Jets, and it's just kind of the same, song and dance week after week. And he points a lot to the execution. And, he does say the coaching is a problem too. And, we take blame coaching, but he definitely does point to the execution, which I think, is the players, and, puts a lot on the players. So I don't completely disagree with your take in terms of, them potentially going into the shell and, kind of, that becoming a little bit of an issue as well. But I do think that at this point, the players' response publicly, the players' public response had to those comments was pretty good today.
Yeah, 6 straight losses. Only 2 of those have been by 1 possession. And this Patriots offense is yet to score more than 21 points this season.
Wow.
And doesn't help when your defense is allowing 41 points one week, and then your special teams is allowing a touchdown the following week. You bring up Drake Mahye. I mean, this is the reality of when you're in Boston, New York, Philly. I always say the sports markets are different. Where Drake Mahye played great, 26 for 37. That's a 70% completion percentage, 276 yards. Was only sacked twice, which midway through the game, I was like, this Jaguars pass rush actually is ruining the game that bad. Then Trayvon Walker absolutely sunned Mike Onwenu at the end of the game. But 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's big for no turnovers. I bring up that why it's Boston, because the glow and the lure of Drake Mahye is already worn off, because you see a team that went out there and just got bullied and pushed around, especially on the defensive side. But to talk about Drake Mahye, Sean, what stood out to you today from him in his second start, and another one that was great and even better than last week's, you would say?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he was definitely still maybe the bright spot, certainly between him and Hunter Henry. It's one or two. And I would say that Drake was the bright spot, despite the fact that he had 0 run game for a second straight week, despite the fact that receivers combined for like 6 catches. I had it right here. 6 catches for 87 yards. I mean, so Hunter Henry outgained all the receivers combined. And I do think like you saw a lot of good from Drake. You saw him, I thought, in much more control. He took what the offense gave him, and some of those weren't explosive plays or anything like that. There were checkdowns to Ramondre Stevenson. He had a check down to Jermichael Hasty on 3rd and 15 that gained 7 or 8 yards, but it still felt like when you were watching the game, like, all right, that's the smart play. Kind of live to see another day sort of thing. So I thought that was a really really positive sign. And then it's been kind of the case throughout the preseason. Saw it last week too, but just the difference that he provides to the downfield passing game, I think is really, you can't understate it. And when you go through the play-by-play, you're going to see 3 plays that middle of the 4th quarter and a 2-possession loss. Who gives a crap, right?
Right.
But during those 3 plays in that 4th quarter drive, first one to Hunter Henry down the seam, another drop in the bucket for Kayshon Boutte, who now has benefited from 2 of those in the last 2 weeks, and then kind of the really accurate dot to who was it, KJ Osborne for the touchdown. That was another 22-yard gain. So those 3 plays, 3 explosive passing plays in a matter of a drive. I think you really can't understate that, because I do think that shows, so much potential for the offense going forward.
And you saw him shine in the scripted plays on the first drive too. Like, what you're going to go out, you're going to run. And It was great to see that from the first drive, but you always take that step back and go, all right, let's see when it's not scripted, when there has to be a response. But you point out, because it was that down the middle pass to Hunter Henry for 32 yards, but also him being smart. It wasn't just throwing it downfield. It was putting the touch on it to throw it behind Henry so he turns around and makes a play, which, hey, just throw it up to a playmaker and go get it. Because at best, you either get a DPI or a catch. At worst, the defender doesn't see it and goes incomplete. It would have been picked by the safety if you let him. Drop in the bucket to Kayshon Boutte. And then the touchdown pass to KJ Osborne was so significant to me because he picked apart a cover 2. He found the soft spot. It was accurate. And it was to KJ Osborne, who has been MIA almost for this offense, as he's still trying to figure out his spot. What is Drake Mahye doing? He's making these receivers better.
That's right.
Kayshon Boutte was a nobody. Hunter Henry, since that Seattle game, he's had 9 catches the 4 games to follow, and then he finally shows up. And KJ Osborne, who didn't play his snap last week, gets a touchdown this week. That's rewarding KJ Osborne for running the right route, reading the right defense, and Drake Mahye's throwing the right ball to him. So we're seeing those glimpses of how he could lift up an offense. The frustration still lies with me that they're so bad all around him. Run game. Offensive line, defense,
coaching.
Now special teams. Thank you, Trav. Coaching. That, again, I like the rookies playing. It's year 1. It's a foundation year. It's not that it's a wasted year. This team is going to be bad no matter what, but they make a step forward to Drake Mahye, and they're still so far and so far away from being even competitive and comparable and just decent in the NFL. You said it. They're the worst team in the NFL now. Once Deshaun Watson went down for the Browns, I said the Patriots now are the worst team in the NFL. They are the worst team in the NFL.
Same thing.
Wow, that's terrible.
That's just to pick up on the point about the run game, I was just looking it up, and it's not like a huge sample size or anything like that, so I didn't have to dig too deep into stats. But they have 120 yards rushing in the last 2 games, 41 attempts. So, 2 games obviously being the Drake Mahye starting sample size. They're averaging less than 3 yards a carry. They had Ramondre Stevenson back today and, performed even less, 2.5 yards a carry on, 38 rushing yards on 15 attempts is insane. That is like, I can't even come up with a word that portrays, that paints that picture.
Yeah, and I understand Drake Mahye provides the upside in the run game, but all his carries were off scrambles. So if you just go with the running backs alone, they're averaging under 2 yards per carry, and that's what the issue is. And again, when you have all these shuffling offensive linemen, it's not going to help. And same thing last week. If you look at the running back carries, they were absolutely terrible. That's what gets me.
Shuffling offensive linemen, no commitment to the run from Alex Van Pelt.
You can't commit. You can't find space.
And you're down in a game, so you're trying to throw yourself back into it. It's a recipe for disaster. Let me ask you this, S-Mac, because I ask you this every week. You agree with George every week. So now I'm just going to ask it in a different way because I'm the Terminator, and I'm just going to keep coming at the both of you until you change your mind. Is there any scenario, S-Mac, in which you see this head coach fired at the end of the season? Because I keep telling you both, if you win one game in this league, you're losing the locker room. You're blaming everyone else for all the world's problems. Fans aren't coming to your games. I mean, Robert Kraft has no choice. I don't give a damn about he's like a son to me. I love him.
That
BS.
matters.
BS. You win one game in this league, you're losing money on your bottom line. You got to get him up out of here. Hell, my dad would fire me. You got to get him out of here and go get a coach. Is there any scenario, S-Mac, in which you see Jerod Mayo getting fired at the end of the season?
I don't. And I think, like you say, Robert Kraft doesn't have a choice. He does have a choice. I mean, he could fire Van Pelt first. He could fire, DeMarcus Covington after the first 2 weeks. Like, I would be very surprised if it's Jerod at the end of this who is the one that's out. And, I guess kind of fair or not, right? But I just don't think that the way that it would – no, I guess I'll just leave it at that before I dig myself or give you any more material. But no, I don't see Jerod getting fired at the end of the season.
Has Jerod Mayo put forth a resume to keep his job, Travis? No. But is this happening in a vacuum? No. So will Robert Kraft fire Jerod Mayo after one season? No. Alex Van Pelt's going to be the fall guy in this one. But they have to get the next hire right because it's so important to keep this rookie quarterback on track with a guy that knows how his footwork, don't completely overhaul the offensive system, because as we see, it's working for him. You go in shotgun, a lot of 11 personnel with a really bad wide receiver room. Pop Douglas struggling, like throwing up on the sidelines. Wasn't benched, wasn't talked to by the coaches after his penalty. Nothing, was just literally sick and couldn't play.
Yeah.
And Drake Mahye still threw for 276 yards. Sean, before we let you go, real quick, give me one stud, one dud you have from today's game. I know Keegan Stiefel wrote it for Nesson.com, but I always love to hear your studs and duds. Give me one stud, one dud you got from the 32-16 loss to the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing how I would say my top is Drake, but since we've talked about him so much already, I'll probably go with Hunter Henry. 8 catches, 9 targets. Again, he outgained all the receivers. That 33-yard catch down the seam on the fourth quarter touchdown drive. Yep. I mean, that set up the touchdown without a doubt. Kind of jump started the offense. So that was a great play, and it seemed like he was always able to kind of, when Drake was in trouble or, trying to get outside the pocket or whatever the case may be, it always seemed like Hunter Henry was kind of the one there for him. So I thought he had a really good game. And 8 catches, 9 targets, leads the team in everything. I am curious how, if Pop Douglas wasn't, sick and wasn't throwing up on the sideline, that stuff, not only how I think the game could have changed. I mean, 2 catches on the first drive for 14 yards. And it just felt like, he was showing some things in that. So I would, great game for Hunter Henry. I think for duds, I would probably go, it's either between Jalen Polk or Jelani Tavai. I think I'll probably go with Jalen Polk just because how terribly his comment from last week aged when he said that, the best hands in the game. He saw 3 targets today, 2 of them hit his hands. He dropped them both. They probably won't qualify as drops, but I would consider them drops. And then, tries to run a 2-point conversion, breaks to the outside and slips and falls. And I mean, that's it's a play that I guess could happen to anyone, but it doesn't happen to everyone. You're a second round receiver, and that's an important play. I mean, that's a 2-point conversion that you absolutely need. And it could have changed the entire outcome of the game. I mean, who knows how things play out differently with that 2-point conversion. So just a really down day for Jalen Polk. And it's kind of, unfortunately, both for him and the Patriots, becoming a little bit of a theme here.
Yep.
Yeah, especially when you say, the first 2 drops, they were great pass breakups by the Jaguars secondary, who's a really bad secondary. But when you say the best hands in the NFL and those passes hit you in the hands, you catch it. Because those are the guys that actually have the best hands in the NFL.
Should have kept his mouth shut, George, and you know it. He should have just kept his mouth shut.
Man, what a turn. You were all anti-Javon Baker. Best thing to happen to him is he's been inactive every single week, pretty much. And then Jalen Polk came out.
But he was another one running his mouth and hasn't done a damn thing.
He hasn't played. But at least, you know what? He hasn't played. He hasn't played. We haven't heard from him. Yeah. This guy's playing, dropping the ball, and he's still saying that dumb stuff.
Right.
He's Sean McGuire of Nesson.com. Make sure to catch all his writing.
Then
Baker,
preseason comments from receivers are just not aging too well.
Make people in wheelchairs stand up. Meanwhile, he's sitting up in the box watching because he's inactive every single game. All right, he's Sean McGuire of Nesson.com. Sean, always appreciate you hopping on, my man. We'll catch you later on this week.
Night, guys.
All right, Travis, he pointed out going through his studs and duds. Let's get to that. And I remember I said, hey, let's table the subject. I knew where you were going. I wanted to give you the time, right? I wanted to give you the time. F it. Let's start with duds. We're not going duds and studs and duds anymore. We're going duds and studs because there are a lot of duds to list. Give me a dud you have from this loss.
You know where I'm going.
Go.
To the top, Jerod Mayo.
Right.
I just, listen, it's one thing to be bad and to lose games. It's another thing to regress every week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. We all knew coming into the season there was going to be a ton of losses here. But all of us also had the calling card of giving Jerod Mayo the benefit of the doubt that, hey, he can keep this tradition that Bill Belichick has of solid defense across the board here. This is a guy who played defense. This is a guy who played for this franchise, who knows what it takes. He's a tough guy. He's a defensive-minded coach. The defense, even with all the injuries, even with all the drama off the field, with everything, at least be respectable, keep us in games, fundamentally sound, tough, mean. You don't get any of that from this defense. I mean, you heard what the guy said. Our team is soft. It starts with that soft-ass defense we see every week that's getting worse. Your special teams that have been your calling card all season long, all of a sudden now, They're taking in water. I mean, that boat is sinking. That's on you, Jerod Mayo. The offense looks better with Drake Mahye. You guys made the right decision as a brain trust to go to Drake Mahye when you did.
Yeah.
But he's still getting slaughtered out there behind this offensive line. He's still running for his life. He's still making plays despite all this. But your play calling is atrocious. That's on Jerod Mayo. And then what do? You get up there after a game and you call your team soft and you start placing blame at the execution of the plays. And we as a coaching staff need to be better. I don't like that either. I mean, I'm not saying he's wrong in the things he's saying. We can watch these games and see that he's right. But I would prefer a brand new head coach to get up there and take every G-damn arrow shot at this team. You take it, Jerod Mayo. You be the fall guy. You say it's on me. I got to be better. I'm the head coach. It starts with me. If you've been in the game for a long time and you've been established and you have a culture that's established and you call your team out, that's good coaching.
Yeah.
But when you're new and you're up there and you're saying, I don't know what's going on. We're soft. We should all be embarrassed. Bro, that's not a good look. You are going to lose this team. And he maybe already has.
He's not going to lose it yet, but this locker room is going to get really tough to manage. But I agree. He goes out and calls him soft, and then I credit Drake Mahye for going to the podium and go, yeah, he won't say anything to you guys he hasn't said to us.
Yeah.
And Daniel Ukawale, one of their best run-stopping defensive tackles, said the same thing. Like, in the locker room, Jerod Mayo called us soft, told us to leave our egos at the door, and people need to do that. They need to stop playing for themselves and play as a team. And that's what goes into when he's saying the execution isn't there. The play calls are there. The execution isn't, and we'll get into that. It's even the comments of like Jerod Mayo saying, I saw guys getting out leverage. I saw a punt down the middle of the field, which is always difficult to cover. Talking about the Bryce Baringer punt that was taken back to the house. He has a strong leg, and he outkicked his coverage, and we weren't disciplined in our lanes. Bryce Baringer's 4 punts, all 4 times he flipped the field.
Yes.
All 4 times he pinned the Jaguars inside their own 20.
Yes.
And 2 of those was inside their own 7-yard line. The one that went to the house was caught at the 4. That never happens. Now, outkick the coverage, I mean, that's more on the lane discipline because he boomed it 66 yards downfield. No ish that he's going to outkick your coverage at that point. That's poor execution on the back end. I wouldn't put it on the punter. Even he was the last line of defense on that punt return as well.
Yep.
But the dud to me is Jerod Mayo as well because he's always said will not be a repeat offender. And all we've seen from this team, especially the last 4 games, is them be repeat offenders.
That's right.
It is, actually, I'll go last 5 on this one. They lose 24-3 to New York, no containment. Same thing happens to San Francisco. It can't contain the run game, 30-13 the loss.
Yep.
Against Miami, just straight up flat. And guess what? They were beat at the line of scrimmage by Miami's run game late in the game when they lost 15-10. And then Houston and Jacksonville, same thing. I'm going all defense here. They could not stop the run. This is, now, you go 4 straight games with the run defense being absolutely exposed.
Yep.
And yes, look, no Christian Barmore. You didn't expect to lose him to blood clots. No Jawan Bentley. He goes down with a very long-term injury.
Peppers.
No Jabril Peppers. He's now on the exempt list. Exactly. You cannot expect those things to happen.
Yep.
Even a Sione Taki finally off the pup, but was inactive today. That's important to stopping the run.
Yep.
But okay, why the run fit still bad? Why is the run defense still bad? Why is it still such a poor tackling team?
That's what I'm saying. Fundamentals, George.
Tank Bigsby on any single run is breaking 2 or 3 tackles.
That's right.
Before he's going down for 5 or 6 yards. You cannot live in that area. So I'm with you. I put Jerod Mayo as a dud. All right, we went a dud. Do you have a stud you can give me?
I mean, we know who they are. It's Drake Mahye and Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
But I want to give another dud, to be honest. Jalen Polks. I told you from the beginning. I know you were higher on him than I was from the beginning. But I haven't seen enough from this kid to be impressed with anything. How's that sound? And then you come out and you start talking all this trash about how great your hands are. My ass. Because, listen, dude, like, here's a problem that I have is – this is an opportunity for any of these young wide receivers. Now, Pop Douglas, I know he was sick in this game, but he has done a great job of exactly what I'm about to say. Any of these young receivers who want it, want to be the man, want to be a number 1 receiver, want to show that they belong in this league, you have nothing but grass and opportunity in front of you because there is nothing on this offense for Drake Mahye to throw to. But we see Drake Mahye's special. He's gifted. He is. You said this earlier in the show, and I couldn't agree more. he is elevating these players around him.
Yeah.
He is making everyone around him better. So if you are a young, hungry wide receiver, I mean, this is the time right now. Before they go out and spend all this money and overpay on these, so-called top receivers and all that, right now is your time to grow with this rookie quarterback. Go out and make plays. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'm hearing a lot of talking from these guys about how great they are and all they can do. But no one outside of Pop Douglas, in terms of young wide receivers, are making it happen.
Yeah.
And so I'm Jalen Polk. I continue now. I already was looking at him with a side eye, but now I'm just like, I'm really close to being out on this kid. Mm-hmm. And I know we're going to talk about the stuff on IG and all that. This is a terrible look for you, man. Like you're young. I miss the humbleness of young players, guys who are just happy to be in the league and trying to come up and trying to grind and make a name for themselves. Now these kids, especially at this position, coming in this league, and they think they're going to take the league by storm, and they think they're hot Shaq, and they don't do anything. Mm-hmm. And it's so frustrating for me to watch because clearly you have the quarterback of the future, and you should be growing with him as a young wide receiver. You should be so excited to be out on the field with Drake Mahye.
Yeah.
Instead, I mean, you got these young wide receivers coming up on the back of milk cartons. They are missing. It is embarrassing.
And this is a Jalen Polk that you point out. I think it's the best thing of you can grow with this rookie quarterback who's going to be great. And all he's doing right now is hurting himself from being out there on the field.
Bingo.
Poor route running. Bad hands, mental mistakes.
Right, and pouting after the game.
And
Great
then posting
call.
on Instagram a black screen with the deuces emoji that he later deleted. Like, just don't post.
Don't post.
I get it. These guys are learning. Like, they're still fresh out of college where they can get away with that. You can get away with that when you're playing for the University of Washington.
Yes.
Where, guess what? You're second fiddle to the Seahawks. And you're second fiddle to Seattle sports all around.
Yes.
And you're not even like one of the premier college programs until the end of the year. You're in the NFL now. All eyes are on you. You post on your Instagram story, it's going to be seen in 2 seconds. So even though you delete it, too bad. Screenshotted and all over Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Reddit as well. It's going to be there.
There it is.
And what does that even mean? Like the all black with the deuces. Does that mean you're going zero dark 30 like LeBron does every postseason, like going all black deuces?
Yes.
I'm getting off social media. I effing hope so.
Yes.
Make your world smaller. Get off social media. Spend less time on your phone. Spend more time refining your footwork. Spend more time with the jugs machine. Maybe for your mentals, respect that space where maybe you are seeing too much into the negative and toxic criticism of you out there on social media, coming from podcasts like Foxboro Rush, coming from Twitter where people will tag you. And I understand that's really hard to avoid. If you're doing that, Jalen Polk, great. Just don't post it. Just delete it and get off of it.
It could be deuces, I'm off of social. It could also be I'm quitting on this team.
No, that's not it.
It could be. And
that's
by the way, I want to say if he's meaning it like Deuce, I'm out here. I'm done with this team. I'm quitting on. I'm saying, George, stay with me for a second.
Yeah.
If he's saying I'm quitting on the team, right? If that's what this post was, my point is, what difference does it make? Because what the hell have you done? I mean, you're quitting on the team. Great, thanks. It'll cost you nothing because you haven't done you haven't done anything. So regardless. My big point is, if it means deuces, I'm out on social media with all the criticism, what difference does that make? You shouldn't have been on there anyways.
Yep.
And then secondly, if you are indeed quitting on your team and it's deuces like, man, I'm done with this, good riddance, bruh. You're not helping us anyways. Mm-hmm. If Pop Douglas, puts that out there, which he wouldn't, then I would say, oh, man, you got to get in a room with Pop and figure it out because he's the only one that shows up every week. But Jalen Polk putting out on social media the peace sign and I can't deal with this, good riddance. Either way, whether you're quitting social or you're quitting your team, no one's going to miss you, okay? Because you shouldn't have been on social anyway, and you damn sure ain't helping your team on the field.
So we talk duds. I'll give a stud, and it's the obvious stud. It's one of the few studs you can find on this team. But that is what Drake Mahye did today.
Yeah.
He threw the ball 37 times. And finishing with 276 yards, 2 touchdowns. I go back to that drive end of the game where everyone knew what you're going to do.
Yes.
You have just under 4 minutes left, 3 timeouts. You're down a ton, and you need to score to keep yourself in this game. What were they going to do? go downfield and do nothing but throw the ball. But that 32-yard completion down the seam to Hunter Henry, perfectly placed, perfect touch on the ball to throw it behind Hunter Henry, who's facing you, but the defensive back isn't. So either you get a DPI or you're just throwing up to a playmaker and he catches it. If you let him, that's picked off by a safety, or that's a hospital ball to Hunter Henry.
Yes.
Then you go left sideline, down the sideline to Keyshawn Boutte, another drop in the bucket pass. Those are both 30-plus yard passes. Then on the touchdown completion, quick decision out of the shotgun, diagnose it to cover two, pick the soft spot, layer it perfectly to KJ Osborne, who has been a non-factor in this offense. But if you're making KJ Osborne catch touchdown passes, what Drake Mahye is doing right there is rewarding a wide receiver for running the right route, getting to the right spot, and showing the chemistry to be on the right page and the understanding. You're reading a defense, you're making the right throw, and it's for a touchdown when the concentration and the magnifying glass is under you in the passing game. He's rising to the occasion. He's lifting up this offense, but it's not happening. And the one thing I'll actually give this Patriots offensive line, in their pass pro, they were good. He was only sacked twice.
Yeah, they were.
He wasn't under duress a ton. He was doing a good job escaping pressure, getting out of the pocket. There were bootlegs, sprint outs. That was helping him get off platform, and he was making off platform throws.
That's right.
So it was good. He's getting more comfortable. He was more composed. Drake Mahye is definitely a stud in this one, and I give the pass protection he got as a stud as well.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, listen, you're 2 starts in. You're losing games the same way every time. What more do you have to play for at this point other than Drake Mahye's evolution, Drake Mahye's development? I mean, if you're a Patriots fan now, that's what you're watching for every week because, Lord knows, it's going to get old. Sure. It ain't for wins.
It's going to get old, though. It's gotten old for me. After 2 weeks, it's gotten old for me.
What?
I enjoy.
Drake
you know
develop?
me. Yes. If I'm tuning in every Sunday and I'm giving 3.5 hours out of my day, and I do this for a living, and I love watching rookie quarterbacks develop. I love watching anything football. It's going to get old. They weren't in this game. It was not competitive.
Well,
and when you see the opposing team take the air out of the ball and run it 24 out of 25 plays and have 11-minute drives and just completely take the wind out of it, that's going to get old, T.
All right.
When this team's 1-12,
come on. Let me agree with you, but also add a comma. You better go pick some pumpkins or something then, because I'm sorry. What are you watching for? You ain't watching for wins. You ain't winning no more games. This is it. I am convinced more than ever this team has their one win for the season. Okay, I don't give a damn who you tell me on the schedule moving forward. And, well, you got Mason Rudolph here and this person. It doesn't matter. Okay, the Patriots are going to lose that game. So you ain't watching for wins. You are only watching right now, if you are a Patriot fan, for the rest of the way, for Drake Mahye's development. And if you can't stomach that, which I respect, go pick pumpkins and apples and whatever else you do during the autumn. Okay, because that's the only thing you got for the Patriots is watching your young quarterback develop. Nothing else.
You know what that is?
You will not be winning games.
That's apathy. And that is the worst thing that can happen to Robert Kraft.
Facts.
But guess what? When Robert Kraft is wondering, why is the stadium empty? Why are the ratings down? People are going to choose red zone over the Patriots. It's the world we live in now. When that continually happens, he's going to ask why. Well, why? Why is this happening? Because you didn't actually go out and get the best general manager possible. You didn't actually go out and get the best head coach possible. You didn't actually go out and get the best offensive coordinator possible. You're going cheap in different avenues.
That's right.
And you're trying to make everything be like a childhood book or a Disney movie. And it's not. Be a businessman and make the best head coach hiring possible. Make the best general manager hiring possible. And stop with all the, graceful resolutions like you and Bill Belichick. No, you fired him because Bill, the GM, ran this roster into the ground. But you're still paying the price because you had a general manager that miscalculated in the draft, and you have a head coach that can't get guys in line, and you have an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator that can't get their stuff straight. Stop. I'm done with the childhood book stuff, man.
The Disney stories is
that's what he wants everything to be.
That's a great quote by you. I mean, like it's almost like Robert Kraft kissed a frog and thought it would turn into a prince, but it's still a damn frog.
It's almost like Robert Kraft funded his own documentary to explain how good of an owner he is, and they won 6 Lombardis.
Wait, that really happened?
Let's get into player accountability. So Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald, AC's a great dude.
Yeah.
Love him to death, even though he's a UConn fan. Does a great job covering the Patriots for the Herald.
You and the Big East.
Seton Hall to the death of me.
Swear.
All we do is get our ass kicked by UConn.
It's true.
It's the only thing I can say.
So true.
Dan Hurley, Jersey guy, Seton Hall grad. So he was speaking with Kendrick Bourne about player accountability, and where Bourne said better personal decisions like prioritizing sleep and good diet leading up to a game when your kickoff is 9:30 local time needs to happen. Callahan said to Kendrick Bourne, are you giving theoretical examples like him mentioning diet and sleep, or are you saying those things happened and you guys aren't committed?
Right.
Kendrick Bourne said there's certain things we need to figure out. That's within. That's how the energy feels. There's something else that is contributing to us having low energy in games. We have good long drives, and that's when we need to play our hardest. But those drives, we start to get tired. There's self-evaluating we need to do. I don't know who specifically. It's just as a group, it feels like that. Just how I operate, I can feel it. So that's just where I see we can be a lot better. And Kendrick Bourne is the type of guy, reshaped his diet, doesn't drink. Like, I know this for a fact. He is all in on me being the best physical shape possible because it's everything football. So he's looking around and he's seeing guys where he's bringing up examples of guys need to prioritize sleep. How are you eating in the game leading up?
Sure.
You know, Patriots got out to London later in the week. Why are you doing that? Why are you getting out there on a Wednesday or Thursday when you're playing Sunday?
Yeah.
Should be out there earlier. But he's pointing these things out. And basically, it's Kendrick Bourne calling out the team because he said the time zone has definitely been a factor. 9:30 kickoff, that was a challenge. Energy could have been better, a lot better. We got to find ways from within to fight adversity. We know we're going to play at 9:30 through the week. We need to understand that. Basically, him saying, my teammates, I look around, we need to understand we're playing at 9:30 local time. Don't keep sleeping like you're on the East Coast. Well, sleep like you're on the East Coast still. Excuse me. Don't sleep like you're in London now. And eat the right way, too. Like, everything has to go in. We're not here to have fun. Everyone else going to London is there to have fun. It's business for a football team. It's business for Kendrick Bourne. It's not business for the rest of the roster. That's what this sounds like, Trav.
You heard Jerod Mayo. This is a soft team, dog. This is a soft comment.
Yeah.
We're not sleeping right. We're not. Please. Your team stinks. Okay, listen. This is cultural in the sense of, remember the offseason. You and I talked about this a ton right here on Foxboro Rush, where we said, okay, out with the grump, right? And all the rules, and it's strict, and no one's having fun. It's a dark cloud over Foxboro, and blah, 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 blah. And then Jerod Mayo comes in, and it's all smiling, happy people holding hands. Everyone's so happy, right? It's, hey, we want you to be heard. Woo-sa, namaste. Like I said, everybody's all happy-go-lucky. Well, what happens when you suck? When your team stinks, it ain't happy no more, is it? No one's having fun, are they? All of a sudden, the fun goes away, right? And then what? You're miserable. That's what happens. Listen, there are benefits to having pissed off teams. There are benefits to having strict rules, and man, we can't stand our coach, and man, he runs us into the ground and all that. One of the benefits to that is you rarely get blown out, George. You do. You don't even have to be good. But when your team is piss and vinegar, they're going to hang in every game. When you and I both played sports, a lot of defense is attitude. I'm not saying it's not skill involved. Of course it is. But a lot of defense in every sport is that sort of attitude, that dog. Like, you're not going to do this to me on this Sunday, right? So I look at this team, and I just think big picture, and I look at these comments, it's just a cultural thing. It's just this club med attitude, and now they're losing, and they're getting smashed, and guys are just like kind of not quitting, but what's the word you use? Apathy? It's just like sort of like
they're checking out.
Yeah, it's just like, here we go. Like, we're not having fun anymore. You shouldn't have been having fun from the beginning.
I see these comments, though, when he goes, we had good long drives, and that's when we need to play our hardest.
Said they got tired.
But with those drives, we start to get tired.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right there. And he says there's certain things we need to figure out that's within.
Right.
Because as he was asking it, he was saying the time zone was definitely a factor.
Yes.
9:30 was a challenge.
Yes.
Energy could have been better. We got to find ways from within to fight adversity.
That's right.
Through the week, we need to understand that. And then what Kendrick Bourne says is maybe wake up earlier. Find ways to fight that. That's the first battle. Playing Jacksonville is the second battle. When you learn the first battle, you're losing the second. And then Callahan asked him, how do you change the mentality? And he goes, that's personal decisions. Rather than staying up all night or eating whatever, whatever makes us better, we have to make those decisions to be better. So when we get to the game, we can be better. So as you say, like Kendrick Bourne, well, this team sucks. Okay, when you're less talented, you know what? You have to pay attention to the margins even more.
Absolutely.
You have to work harder. You have to pay attention to all the fine details because that Jacksonville team, no one is saying otherwise. That is a more talented roster on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
Okay, they're more talented. What are we going to do? We're going to work harder. We're going to be more well-conditioned. We're going to sleep better. We're going to eat better. We're going to show up, and we're going to be locked in. And this team wasn't that. So I understand where Kendrick Bourne is coming in, calling him out for that. The Take Him to the Hill team from week 1. Everyone was excited. Man, this team's conditioned. They're going to play hard. They're going to run the ball. If they keep it close towards the end of the game, their conditioning will pull through, and they'll just punk teams. That team's an afterthought. That team feels like it was from 3 years ago. He's calling him out for this one now because when you're a less talented team and you're going to London, get your sleep schedule right. Eat right. Sleep right. Lock in. It's a business trip, and they're not doing that. And that's what I hear from Kendrick Bourne. When you're bad, you have to double, triple, quadruple down on the details, the things you can control. You can't control your 40 time. You can't control your height and weight, your athleticism. You can't control these crazy injuries that they have been plagued with. You can't ignore that. But they can control what they put into the game, and this entire roster is coming up short, and their leaders are calling them out for it.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think if you look across the other sideline, too, and think about the situation the Jaguars were in coming into this game. Now, they had obviously an advantage staying in London, we know, but everything that you mentioned was already buttoned up for them. Schedules was together. Everything was buttoned up. That was a team we thought was quitting on their head coach, so they needed this kind of game just like the Patriots did, and they came in and they said, listen, if we're going to go down, we're going down with the bully ball ship. This is not going to be a Trevor Lawrence game where he's throwing the ball all over the place. We're going to line up with the Patriots.
And he could have done that if he wanted.
And he could have done that, but I'm just saying. I'm saying think of the mentality going into the game,
you're right? You're
so
right.
It's like, hey, like our guys are quitting.
Yep.
The best way to rally and to not quit and to bring our team back together is to punch someone in the bleeping mouth.
That's fun.
And that's my issue right now with Jerod Mayo and the Patriots. These comments are soft. Jerod Mayo calling the team soft. It's too much of that. Someone's got to be the person that grabs someone by the face mask and says, let's bleep and go, hit these guys in the mouth. I don't think we're going to see that from this team. They feel punchless right now. And Drake Mahye, as much as we enjoy watching him, he's too young to be that guy.
Drake Mahye still deferring to the captains.
As he should.
But guess what? Who are your captains? Juwan Bentley, injured.
I know.
David Andrews, injured.
But that's
Jabril
not Drake Mahye's place right now.
Not in the building. Yeah, like
I don't blame Drake Mahye.
Who's it going to be? DeMontre Jacobs?
Right.
No. Who's it going to be? Keon White? He hasn't had a sack in his last 5 games after having 4 in 2 weeks.
That's terrible. It should be Jerod Mayo.
Who's it going to be? Christian Gonzalez? It's not how he's wired. No, this
it doesn't have to be on the field. It should be your leader.
Players. This is coaches.
Yeah.
Again, it's a top to bottom thing.
That's right.
And guess what? It's not going to get any easier.
No.
They got a long schedule left.
No.
That bye is until week 14.
Oh.
That bye is not until the second week of December.
Oh, you don't even need to buy at this point.
It's not even November yet.
You don't even need it.
Just get a. Hey, can we get rid of the bye and just
get rid of
end the season week 17 instead? Just week 18. We'll go to Cancun.
Oh, I don't care what you say, George. If they win one game, Mayo's getting fired. I'm telling you.
Save that for the next episode of Foxboro Rush. He's Travis Thomas. I'm George Balekji. This is Foxboro Rush. Wherever you're listening, thanks for making a part of your day. Please go to Spotify, Amazon Prime, Apple. Like, subscribe, download, rate, review wherever you get your podcast. Also, go to Nesson's YouTube page. Hit the subscribe button as well. Give us a thumbs up on the latest video as well. Leave a comment. Say, hey, guys, this is my takeaway from this game, and we'll bring it up on the next episode. He's Double T. I'm GB. This is Foxboro Rush. We'll see you guys Wednesday with a new episode of Rush.